Good evening. I'd like to call this meeting of the Cedar Falls Board of Education to order. First thing that we have on the agenda, I'd like to remind everyone that the actions taken this evening will focus on our students and their achievement. With that, we're moving into the public hearing, which is item B on the agenda. I'm going to read a statement. I have in my possession an affidavit of publication showing that the notice of time and place of a hearing for the 2016 Pete Junior High permanent easement. This notice was published in the Cedar Falls Waterloo Courier, November 16, 2016. The board will now hold a hearing. Is there anyone that would like to speak toward this easement? Hearing none, I will close this and we will move on to the consent agenda. Under the consent agenda, there are 5 items. The 5th item is the River Hills 2017 lease agreement. We are going to remove that from the consent agenda at this time. Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
It's been moved by Jenny. Do I have a second? And seconded by Jim. Any questions or discussion regarding the items in the consent agenda? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Thank you. Moving on to D, Pete Junior High, random acts of kindness.
Yes, we are excited and honored to have students from Pete Junior High here with us this evening, so we're going to ask them to come forward to the podium at this time. Thank you very much for being here.
Okay. So, good evening. We're freshmen from Pete, and we're going to talk a little bit how our Spread Kindness Challenge started. So, Mrs. Sarah Carlson from Pete Junior High started Tiger Time enrichment as service learning in early October. She brought in Jean Sealand, a volunteer center of Cedar Valley, to lead the enrichment of about 15 students.
Our goal was to choose a community to impact as a group. The 2 communities that we were debating between were the Cedar Falls community and the Pete community, but we just then decided to do both.
We were inspired by the retired Pete art teacher, Bill Close. He brought together Pete and the larger community through the mega sculptures that became a tradition in the Cedar Valley and the pride that came with them. We were fortunate to have the opportunity for him to come in and speak for us for one meeting.
Inspired by his actions, we started to brainstorm how we would try and make a difference in the Cedar Valley and our own school. A student came up with the idea of kindness, and we just went from there.
So, school board, this is where you come in. We want to challenge you as leaders of our community in the spreading of kindness all over the community. It can be anything, as you'll see in the video, because sometimes the smallest of things can make your day a whole lot better. Here's a video using the new green screen technology in our district that we created with the help of our instructional technology coach, Mrs. Hillary Eel. When was the last time you showed a random act of kindness to someone?
Students at Pete Junior High challenge Cedar Falls to spread kindness across the Cedar Valley.
A group of students has been meeting for a few weeks to develop a service learning project. We also want to benefit our school, but also our community.
Kindness connects both. Kindness is contagious.
Research shows that if you are kind to someone, that person will be kind to someone else. Research also shows kindness reduces stress and helps us live longer.
Here at Pete, we're spreading kindness by taping encouraging notes to everyone's locker, making cards for all day of residents, and putting positive notes in library books.
We challenge the citizens of CF to spread kindness. Some ideas are:
Pay it forward in the drive-thru or write someone a thank you note.
give a compliment or a smile. It might make someone's day.
Perform small everyday acts like holding a door or spend a day only saying positive things.
Make sure you encourage other people or volunteer. We specifically challenge the following schools to begin to change the world with a single act of kindness: Holmes,
Cedar Falls High School,
North Cedar,
My elementary school, Southdale,
Hanson,
Cedar Heights,
Orchard Hill.
Lincoln.
We also want to challenge our school board members.
We challenge Mayor Brown and the members of our city council to follow Gandhi's advice. Be the change you want to see in this world.
Show us what you're up to on social media by using hashtags, #SpreadKindness and #PetePride.
Eleanor Roosevelt is quoted saying, "It is not fair to ask of someone else what you are not willing to do yourself." Let's take your advice, Cedar Falls, and spread kindness all over the Cedar Valley this week, and challenge others to do the same.
Please help us spread the kindness and show us what you're doing on social media with hashtags PetePride and #SpreadKindness. Last week, we challenged the City Council, and we will continue the Spread Kindness mission at Pete Junior High.
The wonderful thing about kindness is that it doesn't cost anything, but can make such a big impact. We are not asking you to spend a lot of money or to take hours out of your week. All we are asking you to do is to incorporate a small act of kindness in your day and see the effect that it has on our community. Thank you for your time and consideration, and have a wonderful night.
Great.
Thank you guys for coming. When I arrived tonight at our board meeting, I can say I did a random act of kindness. I brought all of our members here a little peppermint patty with a little kiss that goes on top. So I can hashtag that a little bit later once I feel comfortable doing it, and I'll take a picture and even post it. So I will do that, and thank you, because just a little kindness can go a long ways. And with the climate in our nation, it takes those little things to make us feel good about each and every one of us, and we need to feel valued at this time. So thanks for lifting that up and coming and sharing that story or that message with us today.
Great job. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yep, thank you, thank you.
Okay, moving on to public comment.
Yes, and students and parents, you don't have to stay unless you really want to. So you won't offend us if you leave at this time, so no worries.
Hashtag left early.
Thank you, and again, great job. So some individuals may be new to viewing the Cedar Falls School Board meetings, and I wanted to provide some information regarding our public comment section. Our school board meetings are, by Iowa code, considered open meetings. An open meeting means the meeting is open to the public to observe and listen to the proceedings of the meeting. At the public comment section of the agenda, citizens have the opportunity to make brief statements to the board. To make a public comment, a citizen must simply notify the district office or board president by 4 p.m. the day of the board meeting. Make sure the comment will be less than 3 minutes and keep the comments germane to school district business. At this time, we do have an individual signed up for public comment, and that is Mr. Larry Wyckoff.
Thank you, Andy, and board members. Larry Wyckoff, 4241 East Park Road, Cedar Falls, of course. I was informed of an enhancement fund drive for Orchard Hill to add rubber turf to the area below the new outdoor gym equipment. We just approved a $19 million bond issue, and it is impossible for me to believe that a projected $40,000 safety turf representing 0.4% of that total can't be found to keep our kids and grandchildren safe. Just as a side point, I think there's this safety turf stuff at Southdale, and I'd like to know, maybe at a later date, if that was purchased by selling pies and cakes and dishes that this one's going to be. I think it is appalling that safety turf isn't tied to monkey bars like airbags are now tied to the cars that we drive. Finally, as a taxpayer in Cedar Falls, I have a right to advocate to vote no on the 6th December PEPL referendum. This would put 1.34 per thousand back in my pocket to eventually pay for anticipated costs in Cedar Falls. Number one, sewer taxes are going to be going up. University Avenue increases that 6 councilmen said wouldn't cost extra due to the Tiger funds that were never approved on 2 tries. And number 3, $10 million expense for Highway 58 and Viking Road intersection.
And Larry, those are things that we can't control.
I know,
have
but the
impact on, so
1.34 is something we can control.
Just keep the comments,
Yeah.
germane to school district, please.
And that's what my comment is. Vote no, 6 December. Thank you.
Thank you, Larry.
Moving on to item F on the agenda, the Secretary's financial report.
Thank you. Janelle, if you want to bring up the financials for the month of October. Thank you. See if, hey, it works. Here are the financials for the month of October. We'll start off with the general fund, and you can see that our ending fund balance for the month is, if I can get my screen to work up here, just a second, please. There we go. $10,259,860, and that compares real closely to the amount we had in fund balance as of the end of October last school year. You'll note that the revenue for the month was just over $10.3 million, and that is primarily because we received our first half of the school year property tax draw. Typically, for those that don't normally view these presentations, that we receive our property tax draw from the county twice a year, once in October and the other in April. In the management fund, revenue and expenditures for the month are shown, and you can see the fund balance of $648,483. Again, the $200,905 roughly in revenue, the vast majority of that is for the property tax draw for the first half of the fiscal 17 school year. In the statewide school infrastructure fund, you can see our fund balance is $9,216,812, and that compares roughly to 8.2.
The slides aren't advancing on.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
We're on, yep, management, sorry, I don't know.
Two things at once, and I'm
Yep, there
doing
you
a poor
go.
job.
Yep.
Thank you for that.
Yep.
You can see our fund balance is at $9.2 million compared to the $8.2 a year ago. You'll note the restricted and unrestricted balances. I'll give the board a bit of a heads up on this. Next month, when you see this report, it'll change pretty significantly as we have completed the refinancing of the $20 million revenue bond sale in late November. And so the amount of restricted funds that the district will have will be reduced significantly. And we'll kind of walk through all that a little bit more in detail next month. In the physical plant and equipment levy, you can see the fund balance of $3,503,153, and that compares to $2.5 million roughly a year ago. In the debt service fund, fund balance of $1,009,000, and you can see that's very, very similar to where we were at this time a year ago. Student activity fund balance of $642,968, very similar, about 20,000 less than where we were at this time 1 year ago. Food service enterprise fund $580,800, and that compares to the $397,000 the year before, so that's a positive trend for the food service account. And the coffee shop fund that the students run at the high school, the fund balance is a little over $7,071, and you can see how that compares to 1 year ago. And in our trust and agency funds, $255,007. And in the River Hills Consortium, there's no change in that yet. Those dollars will start flowing probably in January, as we're restricted to only making requests for reimbursement and payments 2 times a year by Iowa code. And with that, I would entertain any questions that the board might have on the financials for October.
Do we have any questions regarding the Secretary's financial report? If not, we'll place it on file for audit. Thank you, Doug.
Thank you.
Moving on to communications, Dr. Pattee.
Yep, this is always an opportunity, and before Julie goes, I'm going to speak for board members and district staff to provide communications to the full board or to provide comments regarding a question that might have arisen during public comment. We had a couple questions that were brought up. Number one, I think we've all known and we've talked about the PEPAL now for several months, and it's not an increase in a levy rate. It's the same levy that's been in place in Cedar Falls for 66 consecutive years, and I think the board understands, and I think our community understands the importance of that levy that again has been in place for the last 66 years to be able to fund those things like student technology, just what our students showed earlier. Without the physical plant and equipment levy, those components could not have been created because that's technology that was purchased through PEPAL to be able to have the green screens, to be able to have the iPads, to be able to have those video technologies in place. The PEPAL has funded over the course of the last 66 consecutive years in the district transportation costs for new buses and new transportation fleet and the maintenance of those fleet. And finally, it's there for preventive maintenance. As you know, with 12 buildings across our district, it's very expensive to make sure that we have the preventive maintenance, to have proper roofing, to have tuck pointing that occurs, and all those other components across the district to make sure it's safe and secure with proper sidewalks and parking lots. So those are the things that this PEPAL, those dollars go for. And again, it's something that has been supported for 66 consecutive years, and it is not an increase in the levy rate for our patrons. The other aspect is the safety and soft components underneath the playground. Yes, that is something that we've always cost shared with our PTO and PTAs. So it's one of those things, even though we have a general obligation bond that was passed, the first one in close to 40 years in our district, that is still something that we have that partnership with our PTO and PTAs to help cost share, because that's been cost shared in our other buildings.
I do. When I was president at Lincoln, that was one of the things we fundraised for, and it's a great service to have, and that was something we worked hard to be able to work with the district and provide for Lincoln Elementary.
And Southdale just completed theirs this past summer.
They did.
Their fundraising and the renovations were done for that. So.
Correct. Yep. So.
Thank you. Julie.
Hello. All right, I'm just going to start by saying I loved what the Pete students are doing. I think it is just such a great thing, and it's a great reminder for just everyone in our community, especially with the holidays coming up. I think it's just a wonderful thing, and I know for sure I'm definitely going to be encouraging that at Cedar Falls this next week. So with that said, Student Senate's next big project, I think I had mentioned last time, will be our dance marathon. This will be taking place sometime in February. We are still determining the date, but we will be starting planning that this week, and we are all very excited to do that. If you want to start by helping with our dance marathon, Menchie's is actually doing a promo day, Menchie's frozen yogurt, out by Walmart and Target in that area. They will be doing a percentage of proceeds will go to the Cedar Falls Dance Marathon. And if you just mention that you are here and purchasing for that, they will donate those proceeds. So it's a great way to go out and help the community as well as get a little ice cream while you're at it. So
when is that?
That will be December 7th, Wednesday, December 7th. Yeah. On Friday, December 16th, Student Senate members will be headed to the some of the elementary schools. And we are going to help celebrate the holidays with some of the younger kids, read books to them, just do arts and crafts, and just help celebrate the holiday season and giving back. That's really what we're trying to encourage and do this season. Some activities that are coming up this week: men's basketball and women's basketball both start their seasons. Men's basketball game is tomorrow at Cedar Falls High School at 7:30. It should be really exciting. And then the women's game will be at 7:30 in Dubuque Hempstead on Friday night. So I encourage everyone to go support the Tigers on Friday. Also, as well on Friday, State Dance is going to be going down in Des Moines. We have a very talented group of people going down, and I know I will be cheering loud for all of our teams this week, and I hope that everyone does well, and I wish everyone good luck. That is all I have this week. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Julie.
Thanks,
I
Julie.
have a
Yes.
question. I'd like to know your opinion.
Yeah.
If we gave every student some sort of card with a blank to write to a Cedar Falls employee, school district employee, mentioning any specific thing that they've done that have influenced them in a positive way. Do you think students would participate in that?
I think so, yeah. I know last week with Thanksgiving.
Is that okay, Jeff?
Yeah, yes, you did that.
I know last week with Thanksgiving, a lot of students took a lot of time and wrote notes for teachers. I know a few people who have done that. So I think if I, bring something up, they would definitely do that.
Thank you.
Yes, of course.
Great idea.
Anything else?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Item H on the agenda, the new elementary school update. Dan.
Good evening, everyone. Been asked to give you a quick update on where we're at on all 3 elementary projects, so I'll try to run through that real quickly here for you. Starting with the new elementary school. Currently, design development has been completed for that facility, and we're working quickly towards wrapping up the construction documents that we'll be presenting to you on December 12th, and then sending that to the printers on December 15th, and bids are scheduled to be received on January 24th. So that's kind of where that stands. So now I'll walk through, starting with the site plan. To know if we could. Okay. So what you're seeing here is the north side of the site with Arbors Drive to the left, Ashworth running east-west on the north. You can see the building towards the south. So we have the visitor parent parking there to the north. We've set up a situation where we can basically bring 2 drop-off lanes through. There's one up against the school. There's another one up to the north of that on the south side of the first parking area, and then working its way out and around. You can also see the drive on the right-hand side that wraps back down towards the building. That goes to the service area for the kitchen supplies. It's also part of the fire lane for the fire department for emergency situations. If you go to the next, please. Okay, here you can see arbors coming up from the south out of the Skogman area. Again, you can see the teacher parking there south of the building. We've set that up so that the buses can just really work their way around and through the site. We've also set it up such that in the evenings when buses are not being used, that can be used for parent parking and parallel street parking as well. To the right of the parking lot, that is the upper elementary playground. The white area would be the soft, where the soft playground would go. Then you can see the 2 basketball courts and some tetherball courts there as well. To the south of that is an open field with a meandering line running around. It is currently a walking, running path with a rock surface.
Is that still school property?
Yes, this is all on school property. So, okay.
Since about a month ago when we brought this to the board, just with some of the other components, there's been a few different tweaks and changes. A lot of it's to the parking and circulation movement of bus traffic and parent traffic, because again, we know this is such a unique opportunity to try to create a space that's going to be safe for all of the traffic that's going to be coming along this access and roadway, and that's what's excited. So when you saw this a month and a half ago, it's just slightly tweaked and different through all the feedback we've received from multiple people.
Mm-hmm. We were also able to work with the city on looking at doing the fire lane a little bit differently that could potentially run down between the building. We were able to do away with that. So we thought that was a pretty good option to take advantage of. We're also currently working with the city to finalize the rezoning of the site, and we're ready for the 3rd reading coming up here shortly. Grading package has basically been completed. They're currently in the process of putting down the stabilization seed and straw laydown. Geothermal supply well was drilled, and it was test pumped, and it's generating all the water we need. So we're in pretty good shape there. Any questions about the site? Okay. Moving on to the floor plan. Okay. What you're seeing here is the base bid plan, where it's the 3-section building. Again, to the wing to the upper left is the 3, 4, 5, 6. To the lower south is 1, 2, 3, with the cafeteria, gymnasium off to the right on the south. Administration area offices to the north with music rooms in between, and off to the upper right-hand side, that is the pre-KK area, which also doubles as the storm shelter. So, which ended up being just about the right size to make that happen. We have added an additional special ed room to the facility. We added a little bit of square footage in the kitchen area to make it a little bit more of a hybrid production kitchen, so that not everything is being shipped in all the time. The cafeteria was also right-sized for a future full 4-section building. So, any questions there? Okay. Next. Janelle? Okay. What you're seeing here then is what is the first alternate bid, which we would add the 6 additional classrooms to make it the full 4-section building.
And as everybody recalls, that's part of the discussion we've had over the last roughly 6 months, where looking at a 3-section building, which would house about 525 students versus a 6-section that'll house about 625 students. Looking at that as an alternative base bid to see if that's feasible. We've grown so many students, more than what we thought, especially over the last 2 years, and our projections into the future show additional growth, especially into these areas in southwest Cedar Falls, that this is something at least we have information on and can explore as those bids come back.
Dan, I know I articulated this, I think, the last time you gave a presentation, but I'll ask it again. When we do this alternative bid, I know that the easiest is just to take the primary bid documents and say basically we're fast forwarding and we're adding that 4th section into each building. But by doing that, we've got a load-bearing wall in the middle of the building. When we do the alternative bid, obviously we wouldn't need a load-bearing wall in the middle of the building. We could just do the trusses all the way across, and it seems like there might be some cost savings that maybe we could achieve. And I guess you could tell me if it's minimal or not, or it would exceed the cost of creating an alternative bid that would have that in its design.
I think it's really pretty minimal, the way we would set it up. It's going to stand there by itself either way. The span of the joists would be, we don't want to get them any deeper than what they would be. If we start clear spanning even further, we wouldn't want to necessarily do that in those rooms.
So basically, you don't foresee there being any significant savings?
Not a significant savings one way or the other. It would be more cost-effective to build those rooms now than later.
Absolutely.
Just because.
Yep.
There wouldn't have to be all the additional setup again by a contractor. So there would be savings to go ahead and do it.
Right. Of course, there's the savings as well as that we wouldn't disrupt classrooms that are
correct
in session, because we probably wouldn't be able to do that in the summer.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Okay, thanks, Dan.
Okay. Okay, so next. Okay, just a quick overview of the elevations. Again, we finally settled on 3 different brick colors. We went round and round about that, and we think we've come up with something that's really very, very nice. We're also using, again, metal panels on the building. That's primarily on the gymnasium area and the upper levels of the mechanical mezzanine and the clerestory windows over in the classroom areas. So any questions there? Okay. Then I thought I'd quick run through a series of alternates that we're looking to incorporate into the bid documents, just so you can get an idea of what will be coming. First alternate, as we talked about, the 6 additional classrooms. Second alternate, adding an additional re-injection well. That's been kind of standard practice for us in past projects where we've used that. And we haven't needed it, Mike, typically? Not in the Cedar Falls School District. Okay, but it's kind of nice to have there just in case we run into a situation in the ground system. Change the roof membrane from a 60 mil EPDM to a 90 mil, which would have then also a 30-year warranty. Looking at installing concrete on the walking trail in lieu of the rock surface. There seemed to be some desire from folks to look at that. Looking at adding terrazzo in the heart area of the building, which is basically the center portion.
Adding what?
Terrazzo.
Terrazzo.
Okay.
Okay.
That's in the area right when you walk in. It's kind of the main entryway, right by the cafeteria and the main office area.
That's what is at Lincoln, correct?
It is, correct.
And that's
Cedar
also
Heights
at
too, isn't it?
Cedar
Hanson
Heights
and Southdale.
and Hanson.
Yep,
Okay.
amongst others.
There we go. So you can kind of see in the, as you come in from the north and the south, the area that runs along there and then off towards the doors that lead down into the classroom wings. So that's primarily where that would be. Also adding tunable lighting in the special ed rooms. There's been we had a lot of discussion about that, whether we wanted to do this or not. And basically what that allows is in those rooms to be able to change the color of the lighting, which in turn helps the kids calm them down or kind of just work with them and keep them calm. Then also, Doug and I talked about this, putting an alternate in for increasing the warranty on the building from 1 to 2 years. That's something I've done on some other projects and had some good luck with that in the past. So all work is to be completed by August of 18. And cost-wise, budget-wise, for the square footage we're at, we're pretty much right at the budget that Doug and I have been working on. So, okay, any other questions?
Tell me when the bids are going out again?
Going out December 15th, and bids would be taken December or January 24th.
And later on in the board packet, you'll see that on January 30th, we're hoping to have a noon meeting so we can approve the bid acceptance for the new elementary. So something that we'll highlight coming up in January. So next meeting is when we will go over all those, the bids and specifications and have board approval on those.
Question on the bid as far as of completion date. Obviously, we have a hard completion date.
Mm-hmm.
Your thoughts on putting penalties in there for not having things done on time? Or I guess the alternative, you put incentives in there for having things done early? Although for us getting it done in July or versus August probably doesn't make a lot of difference.
No, I'm not a huge proponent of putting penalties in. We just tell them when it has to be done, and then you can start playing the game, well, it rained this day, this day, this day, this day, and eventually you just end up arguing. So, but I think we have enough time allotted here to get it built, which was the main reason that we went ahead and did the grading package now, so that we don't have to wait come spring. So I think we've put ourselves into a pretty good position at this point with this building. So.
Didn't we put penalties on, or do something, talk about something a while back, several years ago, and it discouraged bids, didn't it? I can't remember. Seems like we talked about that.
I'm not recalling it right off.
Yeah, it might have been with Cedar
Top of
Heights or
my
Lincoln,
head.
or, yeah, it's a while back. And it didn't work very well because I don't think we had the bids that we were hoping.
You know, as like Dan said, there's pros and cons to that. My fear would be that the general contractor would probably just pump the price up a little bit to plan for that. I could potentially see the benefit of the reverse that Mr. Hassman's talking about, where if it's completed before a specific date, there might be some sort of additional compensation. But I don't know of, there may be public school districts in Iowa that are doing it, but I'm not aware of any. And I would want to talk with legal counsel about that before we were to move in that direction.
And as we've talked with other contractors and builders, we think that this timeline is very much within the expected timeline to be able to have this open by August of 2018. So I think anybody that we've talked to is very comfortable with that.
So you think it could be closed up by, when I say closed up, enclose the building so work can continue out throughout the winter by fall of 2017? Winter of 2017?
A majority of the building, I don't know that every square foot would be under roof.
Because that'll make a huge difference on being able to complete the project on time.
Yeah, it does. So.
And I think it was Jeff that mentioned it before. One of the biggest benefits we have with this site is that there's not students currently occupying the site where we have with Orchard Hill and North Cedar. It's a little bit more challenging when we look at additions and trying to remodel when students are in session. This site, because the grading package is virtually completed, once the bids are out, received, approved, they can start that construction process immediately this spring, once allowed.
We can start getting shop drawings back through the office and approving everything so that it's ready in there when Mother Nature says we can start. Okay? Very good. Next, North Cedar. Okay. Initially, North Cedar was going to be third in the process, but we've moved it up, and basically the purpose for that, as we dug deeper and deeper into the process of this building, we needed to relocate some of the utilities just as quickly as possible, and for that work to be absolutely positively be done by the time school starts in the fall of 17. So we went ahead and flipped the two buildings, timelines, and so what you see in front of you here, site plan wise, again, it really hasn't changed too much since the last time you saw it. The area to the north where you see the gymnasium, the cafeteria, the storm shelter is the music area in the northwest corner of the building. Below that is the main entry and the administration area, and off to the right of that some storage and mechanical spaces. Upper right-hand corner is the kitchen itself. Then as you work your way down, remodeling all of those spaces until you get to the kind of the southwest corner where it has a leg. That's the entry into the pre-K room. So they have a separate entry into the building, come into the vestibule, go immediately into their room. Then we work our way down to the south where we're creating the media center in one of the existing areas, and we're kind of adding on all along that west and southwest side of the building and adding the 3 classrooms that run across the south end of the building as well. And we're incorporating some of the same ideas that we've been using in the new elementary as far as the learning spaces and collaborative areas. So working with that. Doug and I and Andy have been working with the city on getting a variance so that we can bring the building to within a foot of the property line on the west and north side of the building, which we really needed to do that because, as you can see, the darker blue area to the right is the 100-year floodplain, and the slightly lighter, more purplish is the 500-year, which it looks like it goes into the building. It really doesn't. It kind of wraps around the building. The floor line is above the line. So what you can see there is we've really maximized the space that we have to build on this particular site. And as Andy was indicating, this site really becomes, the logistics here are going to be challenging because we're going to be building as the kids are in school, try to get as much done that first summer as we can. At the south end, get to the winter of 18, and that's when everything to the north would begin the demolition to that piece and then come back starting to put the gymnasium cafeteria on. Another piece of the puzzle here is there's really no laydown space for a contractor. The bar joists that are going to be going in the gymnasium are pretty sizable, and we're thinking that's going to happen in the northeast corner of the existing playground site. So,
on this plan, the safe room is the 2 music rooms on the northwest.
The northwest corner. Mm-hmm. Okay, so we've completed the second design development meeting, and if we could go to the next. Thank you. We've sat down with staff and administrative folks and worked through that, had some real good meetings. We're continuing to discuss some of the special ed and collaborative spaces. There's some challenges there that we're working to finalization on. Final DD meeting is scheduled for January 10th. Plans are tentatively scheduled to go out to the printer on March 2nd, receive bids back on April 4th, and all work there is to be completed July of 2019. So, like I said, this project, there's a lot of logistics to this one that we're going to everybody's going to have to work together. We're going to be bringing the 2 portables that are currently on the north side of Orchard Hill over here, and I believe, Doug, we're planning to at least rent another one, correct? If we have to. So to keep everybody able to work and keep the kids in a safe location, and so what we tell the teachers is keep the end goal in mind because it'll be wonderful when we're done. So,
could you remind us where those portables go? Because there's only like a very few places that those can go, right?
Currently, the administrative one would be going down to the lower left-hand corner, and the 1 or 2 classrooms would be sitting to the right of that lower greenish area. There's kind of a asphalt surface in there that we would use to bring them into. And again, we've been working with the city on what's required as far as fire lanes and had some really good discussions with them on that, and they've been working really, really well with us on that. So we're very pleased about that. So any other questions regarding North Cedar? Okay. Orchard Hill. So what you see here, site plan wise, parking for students, or not students, parents and visitors. Boy, they get old quick.
It might be dropping the age, I don't know.
Parents and visitors coming in off of Round Street. And we've looked at this in multiple configurations, and I think we've kind of finally settled here such that if we ever need to, we can also bring buses in and around and have them right up against the sidewalk as well as the bus drop-off lane that runs north-south on the east side of the building. The geothermal well for this building has been drilled. It has not been test pumped yet, if I'm correct, Mike. And but they got to what we believe is a pretty good water supply pretty quickly. So I think we're in good shape there. Move on to the floor plan. Thank you. So again, the area north of the narrow green area in the middle, that is all addition. Here, that work can start anytime. The work is basically away from the kids, so it's a lot better situation than it is at even North Cedar. So it's not great, but it's a better situation. So again, yellow areas, cafeteria, common space. Yellow, orangish is the gymnasium with storage and kitchen to the north of that. The blue area to the left of the gymnasium is again the music rooms, and that acts as the storm shelter again as well. The area to the lower left-hand corner in green and blue, again, that's learning spaces, collaborative space. It's also set up that if we were to take that entire piece and just flip it north and over, we would be able to have a full 4-section building at that time.
You mean add on another section just like that?
Potentially add on another section like that. That's the way we're setting it up. Okay. So then working our way down the building, remodeling classrooms as we go. The existing media center becomes the art room. The existing gym area becomes the media center, which we've had a lot of really good luck with in the past, creating media centers out of those older, shorter gyms. And then reworking down towards the bottom the kindergarten areas. And then off in the wing to the left, creating a couple of collaborative spaces there as well. So we've only been through one DD meeting at this facility, but we had a lot of really good feedback from the teachers and staff and administration for that. Second meeting is scheduled for January 19th. Third meeting for February 14, 15, 16, somewhere in that range. Plans are scheduled to go to out to print April 3rd. Bid tentatively scheduled for May 2nd. Phase 1, which is that north piece, scheduled to be done in July of 18, and then all work completed July of 19. So, any questions about that?
You've made amends for parking, that north part is going to cover, is it not, the present parking? You'll
Yes.
do the parking even further north?
Mm-hmm.
That's
correct.
soon.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And the south parking lot would still be available as well.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. And once it's all over, we'll get the existing portables that are on the south area out of there. Discussions about potentially want the kindergarten, pre-K, playground goes into that area as well. So that's kind of the short story.
A lot of time invested in the work so far. Thank you so much for that with your entire
Well,
team, and
it's
certainly
a
the
team effort, that's for sure.
Yes, a lot of time by internal staff as well. So it's been a great process.
Okay. Thank you all very much.
Thanks, Dan. All right, moving on to the approval of the Pete Junior High Permanent Easement Agreement.
Well, I guess that's me. In your packet is the contract with the City of Cedar Falls to grant both a temporary construction and a permanent easement along the west side of the Pete Junior High School site north of Searley Boulevard, and formerly what was the old Ray Edwards Pool area. You can see on your screen the red shaded box area is the actual permanent easement location, and the yellow would be the temporary easement location. The city would then install their sanitary storm sewer information project and then reshape the site when they're completed that would provide the district a little additional flat surface area for extracurricular activities and also PE activities should we so need them, as well as additional space for park and rec to use. They'll work with the school district in replacing trees and putting some additional fencing in subject to Iowa DOT approval along the property right-of-way line with the DOT and those sorts of things. So with that, we talked through this at the last school board meeting. I would entertain any questions that you might have about the specific contract that's included in your packet.
We typically don't like to have a recommendation and approval the same night we have a public hearing, but we knew that this would be pretty non-controversial. It's certainly a win-win situation, as we talked last board meeting, where it's going to be beneficial to the district to have some additional flat space and green space, as well as the city to be able to do their necessary improvements.
And when are they doing this again? What is the date?
The plan would be for them to start in the spring of 2017, if I understand
Okay.
correctly.
After school's out, or?
Not necessarily.
Okay. Will they be
There's so
using?
little activity during the school day in that part of our property that it would not affect any day-to-day
Okay.
activity.
That parking lot's not used, especially
The
down
parking lot's used, they'll have access to the parking lot.
Okay.
But that playground, or that green area is way west of that, and you
Right.
can see on the screen where the driveway is to get in and out of there, and there'll be very minimal, if any, impact on any staff or parents or any students during the work.
Sounds good.
All right, any other questions? Do I have a motion?
I move that the Board of Directors of the Cedar Falls Community School District grant the City of Cedar Falls a temporary construction easement and a permanent easement along a portion of the west property boundary of Pete Junior High School for the Dry Run Creek Sanitary Sewer Improvement Project per the easement contract as presented.
Thank you, Susan. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thanks, Doug. Any other questions or discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Thank you. Thank you, Doug.
Thank you.
Moving on then to item J on the agenda, the removal of asbestos at North Cedar.
Well, in conjunction with the work that we're going to need to do at North Cedar, we need to start thinking about some asbestos abatement. We have asbestos in floor tile that we'll need to abate, as well as some sprayed-on acoustical plaster that'll need to be taken care of as we gear up for the construction work that's going to take place at North Cedar. And in your board packet, you'll see that there were we requested bids for this project. We received 4 bids with a range of the bids between $59,300 and $82,801. It would be our recommendation to accept a low quote from Advanced Environmental out of Waterloo at a cost of $59,300. Some of this work will take place during spring break 2017, but the majority of the work will take place in the summer of 2017. We need to get some floor tile and some stuff out of the way at spring break in preparation for the contractors to start work right at the beginning of when school gets out next summer, and then the asbestos contractor can be working in other parts of the building while the general contractor is starting to perform their work in their part of the building.
Thank you, Doug. Any questions regarding the bid?
How much more asbestos do we think is in the building? I assume this does, how much more asbestos do we think is in the building? Does this take care of it?
This takes care of it.
Okay.
And we've worked with this company before.
We've worked with Advanced Environmental an awful lot. And one of the other firms that bid, the second low bid, REM, we've worked with with that firm an awful lot too. They're very reputable firms to deal with. And of course, we have a contract with Impact 7G out of Ames that will help monitor that situation, make sure that we stay in compliance with all the DNR regulations and that sort of thing. So,
thank you.
And the one caveat to that is sometimes you never know once you start remodeling if there's an asbestos-filled cavity or something along those lines where we've run into in other districts. So this, we would say this is all the anticipated asbestos removal that we need to do at North Cedar.
yeah, I guess I should have prefaced that by saying, according to our asbestos Bible, in that building, as well as of what we know, it takes care of everything. But I have been involved in construction projects where we've opened up a wall and, oh wow, that's nice. Hopefully this will take care of everything.
Okay. Do I have a motion to approve the asbestos removal?
So move.
Thank you, Jim. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Susan. Any other questions or discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Thank you.
Thank you.
Moving on to item K, approval of the 2017-2018 SBRC administrative costs. And you have that information in your agenda.
And that would be me again. In your board packet, you'll see a request for administrative cost associated with a special education program at, I call it the Bremwood Center. It's still, I'm old school. They've changed names. Very similar to what we did at the last meeting with River Hills Consortium, where they take the number of students in the program as of account date, divide it by this administrative cost, and then prorate that out. And what we would use that $12,498.29 for, that would be considered a special, authorized special education expense for the 2017-18 school year. The School Budget Review Committee does require that when you're going to ask for administrative costs, you have to meet specific criteria. The Bremwood Consortium Agreement does meet that criteria, and you have to ask for it 1 year in advance.
Okay. Do I have a motion to approve the SRB administrative costs?
I move that the Board of Directors of the Cedar Falls Community School District approve the application to the School Budget Review Committee in the amount of $12,498.29 for special education administrative costs associated with Light Center Consortium Program for the 2017-18 school year.
Thank you, Doug. Do I have a second?
Second.
Any questions or discussion?
And we've done this before, Doug?
This would be the first one from Bremwood.
Okay.
Bremwood just became a consortium. The new DE interpretation of Iowa code, this is similar with what happened with River Hills. The local district within that region took over Bremwood, and that was Waverly.
And the 6 students we have there, are they year-round, or are they?
They're year-round.
For the school year?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Any other questions? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Thank you.
And just to give you a heads up, you'll see one more at the next meeting, and that is we have one student at the Woodward Center down in Woodward Granger District, and you'll see that request next month.
Okay, thank you.
And I think that's a good note to say. Doug was kind of the leader in this across the state when we went to a consortium model with River Hills, and the reason you're going to see a lot of these requests coming through are because other regional centers are becoming consortiums based on DE recommendation, and certainly River Hills was the first. So thank you for Doug for leading that charge across the state.
Thank you, Doug. Okay, moving on to item L on the agenda, naming of new elementary.
Yes, and we did not pull up the PowerPoint from the last meetings, but that is something that want to reference a couple different times with the last meeting that we had. Just a reminder, we had a committee that reviewed the list of names that were submitted over a 2-week period by multiple community members. In fact, we had well over 50 names submitted for consideration by over, and again, I don't have the exact number, but several, we do have the PowerPoint, by well over 100 submissions or people that submitted names for consideration. Really a great committee that had a lot of diligence reviewing names, reviewing the background and the purpose of the names. On that form, we had a space where people could describe why they were nominating that name or what the historical significance was for that name. And then the committee went through an elimination process, a voting process, a discussion process to come up with consensus on a recommendation to the board. You can see there were 3 areas that we broke these down into. Number 1, location-based names. Could be the neighborhood, it could be other significant themes across the community. People. In the committee, one of the first items that they discussed was whether or not there should be named after a living person, and the recommendation was anybody that is currently living, those names would be removed because of the fact that, number 1, they're still living and hopefully a long life ahead for those living people, but also then that could be somewhat controversial too if you try to name it after a living person. And then other. And other was just simply, it could be like Noble Elementary, somebody recommended or submitted. Wise Elementary, because all the kids that'll go there will be wise and come out even wiser. So those were just placed in other category. If you look at the next slide, truly the 4 recommendations that came out of this in order of support, and the 2 on the left-hand side of this screen are the 2 that were at the highest level of recommendation. Both of them received a high number of votes by the committee. Westview Elementary, because it's facing west and is in the western part of Cedar Falls. Then Beth Streeter Aldrich, and she was a very successful author, born in Cedar Falls in the 1800s. Went on to pen multiple short stories and was a graduate of what is now UNI. The 2 on the right-hand side, Arbor Elementary and William Sturgis Elementary, were much lower in support, significantly lower than the other 2. Obviously, Arbor Elementary, because of Arbor Street, is going to be the street that the elementary is on. And then William Sturgis, I think most people in Cedar Falls know that is an original settler of what became Cedar Falls, or he was an original settler of what became Cedar Falls. So truly, this is the recommendation for the committee to the board to say these are the ones that they thought best exemplified and showcased not only Cedar Falls in the location, but the historical perspective of Cedar Falls. So it's really up to the board on what you think is best for the name. I know you were going to go back and try to gather some feedback from people. Did anybody get feedback?
Yep. Well, we all received one email speaking for Westview.
Oh.
And then people who have emailed me and also just that I've run into or basically share my enthusiasm for Beth Streeter Aldrich. As has been mentioned, in the last 50 years, this is our first opportunity to do this. And I guess I agree with what we were kind of consensus last time. Let's do something great.
Well, I will speak toward the Westview. We've named 3 other schools after educators. Even though I've read one of Beth Streeter's books, she was not an educator. And I do think that the naming after educators for our schools is significant.
But she was.
She was
a teacher.
She didn't teach in our system.
Okay, but
Yeah.
but she was a teacher. She didn't teach in our system.
Okay. Well, she was not a Cedar Falls educator. And I also received some feedback for the Westview site.
And I received a call today from someone else too that wanted to be anonymous for Westview because they liked it because it was a modern name and because it was very simple. Just an easy, simple name for a school. So
I'd have to say I want to thank the community because I got a lot of feedback from a lot of different people. And I think it's fantastic that our community is engaged. This is the first time in how many years that we get to name a school?
50.
50 years. So pretty, so I guess I've had many people who were very passionate about Beth Streeter Aldrich. I had many people who were very convinced that it should be Westview. I think the good thing is that of anybody I talked to, in the end, they were like, well, whatever you decide is fine. So certainly some strong desires. I'd say probably in a very non-scientific and non-mathematical way, sorry, Dr. Shaw, I'd say I have the impression that Westview had a few more supporters, if you want to call it that, as far as feedback that I got, but certainly many people are very much in support of Beth Streeter Aldrich as a name too.
You can't go wrong. Either name, I think, supported by the committee and certainly will be supported by the community.
The feedback I received was, this is a great opportunity to honor someone who has some historical significance to our area. I went back and read more about Beth Streeter Aldrich, and I actually read some of her short stories, and she has one about a small town, and I just think it speaks very specifically to what we've all experienced growing up in Iowa and being part of Cedar Falls is a big town, but it's really kind of a small town. It's a great community, and we're all very well acquainted with each other, and it's a very familial kind of community. So the feedback that I got was just more of a historical significance. It was important to honor that, and she really does. And not only Beth, but her grandmother was very involved. Her husband, Charles. He wasn't from this area, but he was one of the youngest captains of the Spanish-American War. Actually, they're not just Beth, but her kind of whole immediate family had a lot of significance and very much historical contribution to what we've become. So that's where my support would lie.
Susie?
I've gotten everybody has sort of chimed in on all the names. I tend to float to the location side of it. But right, any name is going to be just fine.
And I probably had, mine was a little bit like Jeff, 50-50. I probably had one person that felt very strongly about Westview, but the others it was pretty even then between the two. And I've been practicing both of them in my minds, and they both sound good. So I think that, I know the committee recommended Westview, but if I remember right from looking at the dots in your office, it was by two dots.
It was like 3 or 4
So
dots.
that it was that close. And I know just the young lady that served on the committee said that you couldn't go wrong with the 2 top ones, so.
And a lot of times I would make a recommendation specifically on which one. This is really one of those aspects where I think it's good discussion for the board to have, and I think it's so significant that it's important for the board to be able to kind of wrestle and talk to the community about this. So I can say that administration supports either one of those. If we do go with Aldrich Elementary, more than likely we will just have that on the side. It would be Aldrich Elementary, and that's how it would be known, just like Hanson and Pete and Holmes. But certainly Westview is a name that I know the committee was positive on as well.
How far west does our boundary go? Because there will be development west of the school.
The district's boundary generally goes to the county line, not straight, but generally speaking, it goes to the county line.
West of Union, about another 2 miles, 3 miles.
All the way to the county line.
Yep. So there is potential that, that was one of the discussions from the committee. If this is called West Side, Westview, because there are several west connotations, what happens if we expand further west and there's more additions 20, 30 years down the road? Will that be confusing? And we said we can't guarantee that by any means, because there could be a further west school 20 years, 30 years, 40 years from now. So we just don't know.
It would be great to have a consensus, and I'll start. For me, I can live with either one of them. Last week, our last board meeting, I was leaning toward Aldridge. And I think, I don't think we can go wrong. I think I would be happy with Aldridge.
I guess I'm not as neutral. I think Westview would be really squandering an opportunity.
And I would agree with Doug.
Okay.
I'm not going to go pick it if we pick Westview, you know. I won't pick at the school
You're
when it opens. You know, it's fine.
I was like,
no, but, you know, I'm not going to form a protest or anything, but
It
I
won't
really
be-
think, I don't think we should squander this opportunity.
It won't be the first Best Street or Aldridge Elementary, because there is one already named that way,
okay.
where she lived and wrote her stories about, which was Elmwood.
But she also did write about Cedar
Yeah.
Falls. I mean, one of her, she got, she was friends with some of the families who pioneered here, and several of her stories were based from here, from their letters, and so later in life, she was in Nebraska, but she did grow up here.
Susan?
I guess after the people I've been talking with, and you heard from one of them, I think I would lean towards Westview.
Okay.
Y'all can express your opinions first. I'll be quiet on.
Jim, are you still, I mean, you brought up Westview.
I would lean to Westview.
You'd lean to Westview.
One of the things that we would do if it is Aldrich, more than likely, just similar to what we've done with other buildings, we would put a plaque inside that would probably have one of our pictures, because there are many pictures that are out there of Best Street or Aldrich with just a little historical perspective and significance to Cedar Falls, similar to what we've done with our other buildings named after people. So that's just an FYI for the board.
I just want to throw it, I mean, there have been opportunities with Sturgis Falls and William Sturgis. You know, we go to the Grout. I mean, these have been great opportunities that my kids have learned about the history of Cedar Falls that I don't know that they necessarily would have done. Unfortunately, I have not been good about sitting down and teaching them about the history of Cedar Falls, but I do think this is an opportunity this can be an ongoing educational opportunity for them to learn about someone who grew up here and settled here and was a strong woman at a time that was not necessarily the case, and she wrote because she enjoyed it, and then her husband died when she had very young children, and she had the necessity of having to write to support her family, so just add that out there.
Okay. We need to make a decision. Jeff, you wanted to wait. I think we've heard from everyone.
Do you want a recommendation?
Yeah,
Sure, go ahead.
For lack of a, you know, again, just to talk, I came in 2 weeks ago with Westview set in my mind that I could picture it on the side of the building. I've come to the realization just through the history that I've done and the research I've done that Best Street or Aldrich, I think, really can exemplify and signify the importance of education, the importance of passion, the importance of historical perspective in our district. And I know that's not going to be popular with all people across our community and understand that. And there's differences on our board as well. But I can picture Aldrich Elementary and certainly have that in the entryway. So it might strike a passion with one child that walks into that entryway and reads that historical statement on that bronze plaque and say, well, that's what I want to do. I want to be able to write for a living, or that's a passion area that might not have been there as they walk through the door the day before. So I think that just in the significance itself might make a difference. So I would recommend Aldrich Elementary and understand it would be Aldrich Elementary. We probably would not put the full name, but on the plaque inside it would be.
I can support that.
I move we accept the recommendation.
Yep.
That's
Second.
fine.
Do we have a second?
A second.
We have a second. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. We have a new elementary building name.
This is
you
significant
all.
and exciting, so
Thank
very,
you.
very exciting. Thank you.
Thank you.
It is.
Never say. All right. Moving on to the superintendent's report.
Just a couple different items. Our next meeting is December 12th, and the informational report will be a CAPS update, similar to what we talked about in our work session with some of those components. The January 9th will be the following board meeting. We only have one in December. January 11th is the Board Admin Council Retreat, and that'll start at 9:30. And just a reminder, if you aren't, just as we talked about before, if you aren't able to be at a noon meeting, the plan is to have that here on television for the new elementary bid acceptance. Again, January 30th at noon. Please let me know if you're not able to be here for that, because we certainly want to or need to have a quorum available for that. Otherwise, I hope everybody had a great Thanksgiving, and certainly as we look at the next few weeks, it's going to be a very active, as we just heard from our student board member and what Julie talked about. It's going to be a lot of activity and a lot of events over the course of the next few weeks across the school district. We hope everybody can come and attend some of those.
And don't forget to hashtag your random acts of kindness so that we can continue to keep that going. And what are you looking at me about?
Nothing, nothing.
So we need to do that. Any questions, comments, or concerns from the board?
On Saturday, the First Lego League is having their big regional competition.
Yes.
At
Pete Junior High.
Exactly. Always exciting to go to. It's such an uplifting and
Be there at 8 o'clock.
positive experience.
I don't know. Do you know what time the competition? I have to be there at 8, but I don't know what time.
I don't recall, but I believe it starts at 9, but I can send that information out.
I'd appreciate that.
You might be right, yeah.
All right.
A few weeks ago, Andy sent to us that 42 at the high school had made it to All-State. I also would like to include that 40 from 5th grade through 9th made it to Opus. And one of those choirs, over 10% of them were from Cedar Falls.
Wow.
And that's across the state. Wow. And so I think that's a compliment to our fine arts department and music education we're giving our students. Not only everyone gets that, but the ones that are able to succeed and go to the further, because I attended, this was my 4th one to attend, and those kids were pumped. It was a great experience for them.
Thanks for sharing that, Jim.
That's neat.
And I would just like to reinforce what Andy said about the physical plant and equipment levy. I mean, I appreciate the comments, absolutely. As a parent who has had kids now come through the district, I've seen the evolution of what's happened with PEPL, and I'm more aware of it as a board member. I don't think when I was a parent and just a community member, I really was aware of everything that the PEPL levy can do for our district. And outside of smokestacks and tuck pointing and roofing, which is not exactly the most exciting thing in the world, we have seen the evolution of our technology program in Cedar Falls. When I was with one of our principals who's in the audience tonight, we started buying technology as a PTA at our elementary. And at that point, kids who were either lucky enough at home to have technology were able to access it, and students who had very strong PTAs were able to access our technology. And it was not equitable and accessible for all of our students. Through the physical plant and equipment levy, I think several of us can speak to that who've had children in the district. We are pretty much one-to-one across the board, and every student we have in our district is able to utilize the technology and have their education delivered to them in a very relatable, relevant, and engaging format for today's students. So I hope our parents, you know, as a parent, I think you just probably assume some of this stuff happens, but it doesn't. It takes funding and it takes planning, and this has been something that we are very lucky that we've been able to use the PEPL levy for, and I personally have been able to see what it's done for my students. So I just wanted to reinforce that with some personal anecdotes because I've seen what a difference it has made. So.
And Jenny, we can even go beyond the benefit to the parents and the students. One of the things at the IISB session I went to, they showed studies that showed that there's a correlation between good public schools and decreased crime and welfare among adults. I mean, one of the reasons that Cedar Falls is kind of a low crime city is because historically we have had good public schools. And it's a lot cheaper to give them the good education now than to incarcerate them later.
True.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
So moved.
It's been moved and seconded by?
Me.
Seconded by Susie. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. We are adjourned.